The Three Wars of the Apocalypse by Michael Snyder. The sound of war drums is getting louder all over the globe. In this article, I want to give you an update of the three major conflicts which will define World War III. I want to give you an update on the three major conflicts which will define World War III. In the years ahead, it's inevitable that smaller regional conflicts will erupt at various times, but for this piece I'm going to focus on three big ones. All of the participants have been preparing for war for many years, and now tensions have reached a boiling point, and once all three of these wars fully get going, none of our lives will ever be the same again. The following are the three conflicts of the wars of the apocalypse. Number one, the United States and Russia. The conflict in Ukraine has evolved into a full-blown proxy war between United States and Russia. Russian authorities have made it very clear who they believe their real enemy is, and the US officials are not even trying to hide the reality of the situation any longer. Our politicians in Washington keeps telling us that we are in it to win it, and on Friday another gigantic package of military aid was announced. The Biden administration announced its newest military aid package for Ukraine on Friday, worth an estimated $400 million, and mainly consisting of ammunition for the weapons it has already provided. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken announced the package, which in the 33rd drawdown of U.S. stockpiles for Ukraine since August 2021, saying in a statement, "We are again reminded of the boundless courage and steadfast resolve of the people of Ukraine, as well as a strong support for Ukraine in the international community." The U.S. is providing more funding for the war in Ukraine than anyone else, more military equipment than anyone else, more ammunition than anyone else, and more military intelligence than anyone else. Oh, and now we are actually bringing Ukrainian pilots to the United States to train them to fly F-16 fighter jets. Two Ukrainian pilots are currently in the United States undergoing an assessment to determine how long it could take to train them to fly attack aircraft, including F-16 fighter jets, according to two congressional officials and a senior U.S. official. The Ukrainian skills are being evaluated on simulators at a U.S. military base in Tucson, Arizona, the official said, and they may soon be joined by more of their fellow pilots. But despite all of our help, the Russians continue to advance. In fact, it appears that the fall of Bakhmut is imminent. The following comes from a Ukrainian news source. The fate of the city of Bakhmut hangs in the balance this weekend as Russian forces continue in making gains, and Ukraine blowing up bridges in what analysts say is a sign of possible preparation for a controlled fighting withdrawal. The British Ministry of Defense, MOD, said the Kremlin's regular army, alongside the mercenary Wagner Group forces, had made further advances into the northern suburbs of the city, meaning the area of the city still held by Ukrainian forces is vulnerable to Russian attacks on three sides. It added, Ukraine is reinforcing the area with elite units, and within the last 36 hours, two key bridges in Bakhmut have been destroyed, including a vital bridge connecting the city to the last main supply route for Bakhmut to the city of Kasiv Yar. Once Bakhmut falls, the Ukrainian forces in the area are going to be in a really tough position. If the Russians start gobbling up big chunks of territory, Ukrainian leaders will become increasingly desperate. And desperate leaders can do some really stupid things. Number two is Israel and Iran. The second major war of the apocalypse will involve Israel and Iran. The Israelis are already striking pro-Iranian forces in Syria and elsewhere on a regular basis, but at some point a full-blown conflict will erupt. And as we've been hearing that the Iranians have been getting close to being able to build their own nuclear bombs for a long time, now it is being reported that they are potentially only about 12 days away from that. Iran could make enough fissile for one nuclear bomb in about 12 days, a top U.S. Defense Department official said on Tuesday, down from the estimated 1 year it would have taken while the 2015 Iran nuclear deal was in effect. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been warning us for a long time that he will never allow the Iranians to build a nuclear weapon and it sounds like he realizes that the moment of truth is now upon us. The longer you wait, the harder that becomes, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said of a strike on Iran at the security conference in Tel Aviv last week. We've waited very long. I can tell you that I will do everything in my power to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, he said. I believe that this war will start in a way that most people do not expect, and once it does start, the U.S. will inevitably get involved. In fact, it has been revealed that the U.S. military already has drawn up a concept plan for a war with Iran. The U.S. military allocated spending for secret contingency operations pertaining to an Iran war plan, according to a classified Pentagon budget manual listing emergency and special programs reviewed by The Intercept. The contingency plan, codenamed Support Sentry, was funded in 2018 and 19 according to the manual, which was produced for the 2019 fiscal year. It classifies Support Sentry as an Iran plan or concept plan, a broad contingency plan for war which the Pentagon develops in anticipation of a potential crisis. And number 3, the United States and China. When I first started warning people that we would eventually go to war with China many years ago, a lot of people thought that I had lost it. After all, China was considered to be a close friend, quote unquote, and a highly valued trading partner. But now we have reached a stage where what is coming is obvious to everyone. Of course, the Biden administration is certainly not helping matters by constantly provoking the Chinese. For example, the Biden administration just greatly angered Chinese leaders by approving a $619 million arms sale to Taiwan. President Joe Biden's administration has approved an estimated $619 million potential arms sales to Taiwan, including hundreds of missiles for F-16 fighter jets, after China sent 25 warplanes and 3 warships towards the island of Taiwan. Biden's move will likely further inflame tensions between Washington and Beijing, which have gotten worse in the wake of the spy balloon China sent over the U.S., and reports Xi Jinping is considering lethal aid to Russia for its conflict in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Chinese have announced that they will be dramatically ramping up their own military spending. The Chinese government will boost its military spending by 7.2% this year, rising to a total budget of 1.56 trillion won. In US dollars, China's budget now sits at $230 billion, up nearly $16 billion from its budget in 2022. China's Ministry of Finance announces a new infusion of cash in its annual report on Sunday. The spending increase comes as the U.S. warns of a potential Chinese invasion of Taiwan in the near future. U.S. officials have also warned China against sending lethal aid to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So a war between our two nations would absolutely be cataclysmic, but it is going to happen anyway. And a U.S. Army Secretary, Christine Wormuth, just warned that the United States homeland would be at risk when such a conflict erupts. She said the U.S. soil could be at risk of an attack from Beijing if tensions between the two countries boiled over, according to Army Secretary Christine Wormuth. Speaking on a panel at the American Enterprise Institute on Monday, Wormuth said that if the U.S. entered a major war with China, the United States homeland would be at risk as well, with both kinetic attacks and non-kinetic attacks, whether it's cyber attacks on the power grid or on pipelines. Let us hope for peace. But right now, everything is moving towards war, and the hothead in the White House is surrounded by an all-star team of warmongers that's making catastrophic mistakes after catastrophic mistake. So we could literally find ourselves in a war against Russia, a war in the Middle East, a war against China, all at the same time. Needless to say, we are not prepared for that. In fact, it's being reported that 77% of all Americans from age 17 to 24 do not even qualify for military service. As the U.S. military struggles to fill the ranks with new recruits, a new report from the Department of Defense reveals that the vast majority of Americans aged 17 to 24 are unfit for military service. Citing a February 16 congressional hearing, a DoD report reveals that 77% of Americans in the above age group could not physically qualify to enter the armed forces, a 6% increase from 2017. A key factor is obesity, which hit nearly 42% in 2020. Meanwhile, a 2022 study cited by the Epoch Times found a link between receiving government food assistance and a greater chance of becoming obese through the consumption of unhealthy foods. A 2015 USDA analysis found that 40% of total SNAP participants were obese. If our leaders were sane and competent, they would be trying really hard to find diplomatic solutions with both Russia and China. But at this point, the Biden administration does not even want to sit down and talk with the Russians, and they just keep making moves that absolutely infuriate the Chinese. So the three wars of the apocalypse that I've already relentlessly warned my readers about are rapidly approaching. For the sake of my family, my friends, and this beautiful country that I love, I want to see peace, and I'm sure that most of you want to see peace too. Unfortunately, our leaders are dragging us into conflicts, and we're getting perilously close to a point of no return. This is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author, "My name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this About the Author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.